Okay. Hello. Hope everybody is ready for an incredible weekend. Last like 9 days before we go to actual real summer. Come on over here. But we do have other kids that are already participating in summer.
Summer. Yeah, summer.
If you remember her last summer, she had blonde hair. Maybe we'll repeat it and do it again this year.
She'll put lemon in my hair.
Awesome. Put lemon in her hair to make her turn blonde. That's awesome. All right. Just getting lighting together. Hope everybody is ready for an incredible weekend. And we've had a great week. We actually went camping, right?
Yep.
Yes, we went camping. And somebody else had a birthday. Went to Disneyland. Didn't met us at camping. Come on over here, birthday girl. That's right. My latest teenager. How's it feel to be a teenager?
Not different.
Yes. Anyways, this is, we're sporting our blanket jacket.
The comfy. It's called The Comfy.
It's called The Comfy. Doesn't it look comfortable? Mm-hmm. She got that for her birthday. Yes, compliments of mommy and daddy. Yes. That styling right there. Pretty awesome. We had fun camping, huh? We actually just went local. What was the place called? It was called The Holidays. Is a bunch of 4 vintage RVs that you can rent. They're there all the time, and you can try to rent them. I think the next available is not until September or October because they're all booked up, but you can rent one, or we actually rented all 4, and our wonderful Nana took care of that. She actually got everybody on board and booked it in January, and we went this week. And it was a lot of fun, wasn't it? Right there at San Clemente State Beach. There's RV and campground and all that. So we had fun, a blast. Anyways, let's go ahead and what happened to my clicker? There it is. I have found my clicker. So here we go. Without further ado, the housing debrief. Of course, I would like to thank a little bit. I'm taller than that. Our sponsor, Kevin Buddy from Monarch Coast Financial, my buddy, your buddy, Kevin Buddy. And he deals with everything, of course, more than one kind of borrower, and there's more than one kind of loan. So because of that, he's got a variety of loans, everything from full documentation loans to alternative documentation loans, investor financing, and private money loans as well. And it's got loads of experience. Has been doing this since 1976. So you too can tap into Monarch Coast Financial's Kevin Buddy and let him help you and your clients at 949-422-2075. That's 949-422-2075. And our company is Reports on Housing. It's your local real estate snapshot. And basically, we want to empower you to understand the market and be able to articulate it to buyers, sellers, clients, everybody out there, so they understand exactly what's going on. They know it's hot, but when does it end? So because they just know it's hot, everybody fills in the blank as to what's going to happen next, where are we going, when is there going to be distressed, when is it going to be a buyer's market, foreclosures, forbearance, all that stuff. But that's what we like to deliver, is the power in data and charts and statistics and a real economic model. We do not focus a ton on closed sales data. I do know I did snap the closed sales data. I'm not going to bring it to you live today, but it will be in the reports this coming up week. But I will say that closed sales data is actually slightly off from May. So it actually dipped a little bit in May from April. So April was better than May. And part of that has to do with the fact that we placed fewer homes on the market in April, and we would have closed more transactions. But you'll see that in the reports. But we don't like to focus on the closed sales data because that's like looking in the past. Instead, we like to look out the windshield and talk about what is the inventory, the available number of homes for sale. That's supply. And then what does demand look like? So we have supply and demand. Demand's the last 30 days worth of new escrow activity. And then from that, we're able to gauge how fast the market is progressing right now. What is the speed of the market? And it's about setting expectations. So it's really about talking to your friends, family, neighbors, and all that, and understanding what's going on in the market so they can have the proper expectations in order to strategize and take advantage of it the best way that they possibly can. And we have reports that dot all over Southern California. This is the latest report that actually Riverside and San Bernardino got this week, and San Diego, Los Angeles, Orange County got it last week. And of course, this coming up Monday is the next report that we just finished crunching the numbers, and then we'll be developing the report coming out at the beginning of the week. So reports on housing.com, that's where you go to subscribe and you'll get the last report. And then, of course, there's a new report along the coast this coming up week. And then we alternate between Inland Empire and along the coast. Go there to subscribe. We will email you out these reports. On the bottom of every email are a bunch of links to utilize, from printing it out to copy, cut, edit, paste, lots of Excel spreadsheets, excerpts, everything you need for Facebook or social media, publicly facing websites, because you can't put, of course, the whole report to your websites or public facing sites. And we've got a lot of charts too. And this thing, like I said, comes out every 2 weeks. It's $15 per month or $150 per year. And I'm not kidding. I go to Starbucks or I go grab something to eat, and it is $15 easily. So skip that, make yourself a PB&J and drink your own home coffee. And then you know what? You've got yourself a housing report that's going to help you sell more homes and help buyers and sellers navigate the crazy market that we have today. You get a month free if you sign up utilizing the coupon code MOREBOOM. So I'm kind of telling you kind of where I think everything's going to go, but we'll get into that, because let's talk about housing, crash or boom. And basically, we're going to hone in again. We're going to talk a little bit about home values, and home values have been skyrocketing upward. I could see the trajectory in looking at the latest reports, preliminary for the month of June, looking at medians, that we were skyrocketing, that it's starting to do a little bit of this. So we're seeing it level off a little bit. Still going up. It's just not at the same screaming pace, because it cannot go at that same screaming pace consistently. But if you look at this is actually through the first quarter. This is a map of the average year-over-year equity gains per borrower. And this is from Case-Shiller. And if you look at this, you're looking at California, $70,000, CoreLogic actually, $70,000 increase year over year. And you can see where you get the biggest bang for your buck as far as net equity increase. And you're seeing that along the West Coast. And then in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, Rhode Island, that area, but pretty much it's Montana, it's Idaho, it's Washington. So along the West, and of course California coming in the hottest at $70,000 up year over year equity gain. That's for the whole entire state, the averages. But what is fueling a lot of this angst about crash or boom and all that stuff is absolute fear. It's fear of what is going to happen next, because we don't know what's going to happen next. And it's so too good to be true that there's a lot of fear that sets in. And especially if you're trying to buy right now and you're being outbid and things are going up $100,000 at a time, what you're afraid of is purchasing at the very top of the market. And I've heard this over and over again, that there are actual buyers today that are afraid that they're purchasing at the top of the market. And I've heard plenty of blogs and YouTube videos and everything else about this being that person that purchased at the top of the market, and then it comes down and you pay that extra $100,000 above the last comp. And yet what they're looking at is just the trajectory, and then talking about what they think is going to happen. They extrapolate based upon what they see as to where we are going next. It's not really founded in real concrete facts and data and charts and stats and things like that. And here are some Google trends. I looked up to see what housing crash has been since 2016 to today. And if you see, when we went into the pandemic, we all of a sudden, we hit a spike, and everybody, as soon as we hit it, it was March 20th, everybody all of a sudden panicked and thought that we were going to crash the housing market. And did it crash? It absolutely did not crash, but that's what everybody thought it was going to do. And then likewise, now that values are just screaming upwards, everybody once again is thinking, well, the last time we had screaming values going upwards, it was prior to the Great Recession. So here we go again. And they are looking for the term housing crash as well. And then you've got bubble. So bubble's kind of all over the board. So we've been searching for a housing bubble for quite some time. And if you look on the left-hand side, that's the prior height, and that happened actually in 2016. What was going on in 2016? Not much, but people were still extrapolating out and thinking, uh-oh, we're going to have a housing bubble. And if you look forward, we actually, more recently, all of a sudden, everybody is talking about a housing bubble again, because once again, they're looking at what happened prior to the Great Recession and saying, looks like we're going to have a housing bubble again. And then here's another term that not many people search. It's called supply and demand. That 100 is just over that time period from 2016 to right now today. 100 means it is the top number of searches that were done for a given period of time. And that happened, of course, in 2019, during the fall of 2019. And that is because there was more supply coming, I guess, and people were starting to search the term housing supply and demand. But you could see this is where we are today. Not that many people are searching supply and demand, which is a real economic core principle of what is going on today. And if I show you this, if I layer them on top of each other, housing crash is number one. Everybody's concerned about housing crash. Then you got housing bubble kind of peaking also on the right-hand side. And then you've got down below supply and demand. Nobody is searching supply and demand. They're just trying to extrapolate as to what they think is going to happen next. And they're not really looking at the economic core principles of Econ 101 of supply and demand. And I show you that on top of each other. It really just does show what everybody is fearful of right now. They're fearing this, so a lot of people, of course, are talking about it. And then, of course, now you throw in things like the core inflation shoots to the highest level since 1992. You've heard everybody talk all about them and go, holy cow, look at this CPI index. It's absolutely crazy. And I want you to know that that used cars is 1/3 of all the reason for that big jump in inflation. It's used cars. And why used cars? If you remember back to when I talked about inflation, it was car rental agencies. What they did is they depleted all of their fields of cars because nobody was renting cars and they couldn't be sitting on all these assets. So they got rid of all of them. And now that travel's coming back, now they want them all back through all the used car lots and trying to get as many cars as possible, and they're having a hard time doing it. As a result, we have used cars sales going through the roof. So of course, you're seeing this big giant change in how much you can get for your used car right now. So that leads us to inflation. And really, a lot of this stuff right now is transitory. Some of this stuff will stick long term, but it's not going to be this gigantic push where we're thinking 1970s as far as inflation is concerned. So as a result, also because of this, if you saw what happened in the 10-year Treasury and the 30-year mortgage, not a lot happened. It was pretty much flat. It's been flat for the last 6 weeks, which if people were really, really concerned about inflation and did not buy the fact that they think it's transitory, you would have saw a push higher in interest rates, which we did not. And another thing that people are still concerned about is, of course, the United States unemployment rate. It's now at 5.8%. It has been dropping slowly but surely. And I think by the time we get to the end of this year, we could be right around 4% inflation rate. And if you draw a line at 4% inflation rate, that's going to get us closer to the bottom of where we were prior to the pandemic. And we're not going to get all the way down to where we were prior to the pandemic, probably not until the summer or fall of 2022, but we're going in the right direction. And if you draw a line across, we're right around 2015 numbers, and it continues to drop and drop pretty fast. It's unlike that after the Great Recession and how we had unemployment that was just sticky and slowly improving. This is a lot better improvement than what we saw back then. And something that a lot of people are not talking about, the number of job openings. Job openings are going through the roof, and they're going beyond 10 million job openings. But the number of unemployed persons per job opening has been dropping like a rock, which means it is actually looking a lot better. And if you draw a line across, this does not look like the Great Recession. It looks like it was going that direction and then has come down quite a bit because there's so many job openings per the number of people that are unemployed that it's almost one to one. So it's looking pretty darn healthy as far as this chart. And this is some chart that we will continue to bring to you because it really does tell a story as to the direction that things are moving or headed. It's a really good trend. So, of course, now also people talk about foreclosures and, oh my gosh, the panic of the foreclosures. And then we can talk about forbearance a bit. And forbearance, if you look, it's actually from last week to this week dropped from 4.18% to 4.16%. What that means is 2.1 million people are still in forbearance. And that it was as high as 4.3 million in June. So it's $2.2 million, $2.2 million people in forbearance less. So it's really come down quite a bit. And the trend is your friend. And then of course, everybody brings up the national delinquency rate and where it's at. But you can see that blue line, that's the delinquency rate, is coming down really, really sharply. And that's because people are coming out of forbearance and for the most part are not delinquent on the other side of it. So when you see it went really high and people are thinking, uh-oh, that's the end, and see how fast it's coming down, and you go across and you can see we're getting towards 2015 levels, and it's only going to get better from here. And of course, I need to dive into forbearance a little bit more, compliments of Black Knight and all the wonderful statistics that they do. And there's 6 million that people that are left in forbearance. 2.1 million. I don't know why it says 6 million left in forbearance. I think I wrote the wrong one. This should have said, what should it said? There should have been 7.2 million people in forbearance. And so I did this wrong. So it's 7.2 million people in forbearance, 2.1 million forbearance and term extended. That's 34% of everybody that's out there. 6 million. So there's 6 million people that have left forbearance. I don't know why I switched this around. I was doing this probably last, but with 6 million people that have left forbearance, 3.3 million have removed and they're performing. That's 46%. 365,000 are delinquent and in loss mitigation. That means that they're trying to work something out. That's 5%. 2% are delinquent, only 168,000. And that's out of 6 million people that have left forbearance. 1.2 million people have paid it off. That's another 17%. So you can see the vast majority removed, performing, or have paid off the people that have exited forbearance. So that's really strong. Something else I want to bring up is historic data for the Mortgage Credit Availability Index. What this is just how easy it was to get mortgages prior to the Great Recession. On the left-hand side, that's where we had the housing bubble. And where we are today in 2020 to 2021, the mortgage credit availability, it's not super duper easy to get a loan. You actually have to qualify for it. On the left-hand side, you could fog a mirror and get a loan. Now you have to qualify for a loan. So that is a big difference in before the Great Recession to now. And something else that people bring up, and they brought it up before, the number of people that are pulling money out of their homes. And you could see this is all of 2020. You could see the number of people that are pulling money out of their homes. It's nothing compared to the Great Recession, that Himalaya on the left with 100 where it says 108, that's in $1 billion in a single quarter. And then something else that you need to know, people are sitting on a ton of equity. the tappable equity, that means that equity, and it still brings them to an 80% combined loan to value ratio, which means that they still would have, so they would have 20% in the game and 80% of a loan to value. If they refinance, they can tap out $7.3 trillion right now. That was as of 2020. You could see where we were at prior to the Great Recession, and the tappable equity was teeny tiny. It was nothing. It was at 4 trillion compared to 7.3 trillion right now. So it's not going to be a wave. It's going to be this little wake when we finally do get foreclosures down the road. I've talked about it before. It's going to be close to 2016 numbers. I think we're going to have, for all of Southern California, about 1,500 short sales and short sales and foreclosures. That's only about 4% of the marketplace versus where we are today, less than 1% of the marketplace. It will be some. It won't be anything to write home about. It might be 2017 numbers of 800, which is only 2.5% of everything that's going on. Not a whole heck of a lot that's out there. So all those people that are thinking there's going to be a wave of homes coming on the market because of the end of forbearance, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to play out in the numbers. And so instead, let's take a look at supply and demand. Supply and demand is what we should be looking at. That's what we should be Googling, but it doesn't sell a lot of papers and doesn't sell a lot of YouTube videos and articles and that sort of thing. Let's look at the Southern California supply and where we are today. If you see, not that many homes in the market. Today, we're at 17,631 homes. It's up 5% or 892 homes in a 2-week period, which is absolutely fantastic good news because it's going the right direction. Last year, we were at 29,858. You can see it's getting closer and closer because this was the beginning of when normally you don't peak until July or August, but last year we peaked right at the start of May, and you could see it's getting narrower and narrower. So the difference between last year and this year is not that great, but still 69% last year compared to this year. And even last year, there weren't that many homes on the market compared to the 5-year average. So I like to look at the 5-year average, not comparing it to last year, because last year was a COVID year, and looking at last year compared to this year is just going to be off for the rest of the year. So I'm looking at 2015 through 2019, and that 5-year average is 40,609 for the same time period. That's 130% more, which means that more than double where we are today. So 17,631 versus 40,000. And that's really where we need to be, is right around that 40,000. But I'll take last year's numbers at 30,000 compared to where we are today. But this is good news. This is a trend. Since April 1st, we've added 2,236 extra homes on the market. So you could see that our inventory is a little bit more. So a buyer that entered today would see an extra 2,236 for sale signs. So that is good news. That's the kind of good news that we jump for joy, right? Because we're going that right direction that we need to see. And then we have Socal Demand, and Socal Demand, man, has been an absolute rocket ship upward, where we've had plenty of demand out there. And a lot of this has to do with Freddie Mac, the primary mortgage market survey, interest rates. This goes back 50 years in interest rates. And at the beginning of this year, January, we had the lowest interest rate of all time. But now, since then, it's come up a little bit. But here we are at 2.96% right now. And you can see the blue line, it's kind of been flat for the last 6 weeks. And we've kind of been right around the same little area between about 2.94 up to 3%. And that's kind of where it's been sitting. So not a lot has happened within the last 6 weeks with interest rates, which if you're looking to refinance or something like that, my thing is do it right now before this starts to elevate, because there is a lot of upward pressure on mortgage rates for this second half of the year. And we're running out of the first half of the year. We only have another few weeks. And let's talk about Southern California demand. This is the last 30 days worth of new escrow activity. So if you look at that escrow activity, and today we're at 19,672, actually went down 1%, or 217 pending sales less. We typically peak. So this is typical for this time of the year that it comes down. Probably would have come down more from a bigger height that we should have had a couple weeks ago and even 4 weeks ago, but we were placing fewer homes in the market. But we're down 1%, or down 217 pending sales. This is going to be kind of the trend. It's going to be the slow, methodical drop in pending sales. Last year, we were at 18,162. That's 8% less than where we are today. And if you look at the 5-year average, oops, it should say 18,155. That's 8% less than where we are today also. So look at the 5-year average compared to last year. It was right on the money for the 5-year average, 18,155 versus 18,162. So, and we're just a little bit higher than that right now. And, as far as how fast is this market moving, of course, it's moving really fast. But this is also a good trend, because today the expected market time is 27 days for all of Southern California versus 25 days 2 weeks ago. And it was stuck at 25 days for quite some time. And now it's starting to elevate a bit. So we're at 27 days. It's up 2 days. And last year we were at 49 days at the same time period, but you could see it was squeezing closer and closer, because we almost got, by the time we got to September, we got into the 30s, and that's not far off from where we are today. So 5-year average is 67 days. So you could see last year was even way better than that 5-year average from 2015 to 2019. And that's because of how hot everything was, with very, very low interest rates absolutely fueling demand, as well as that demographic patch of a lot of millennials coming to market at the same time last year and also this year. So that has heated things up a bit as well. But you know what? The market time is starting to rise, which is really good news. You might not feel it, but I hear these anecdotal stories of, it took me a little longer to sell. I didn't know. I didn't have as many showings as I thought. Those type of things. I'm starting to hear it a little bit louder. I mean, it's not gigantic out there, but I definitely see it in the data. And that's what we got to look at, is what's going on in the data and where is it headed from here. So, and I've talked about it before, this is the summer market. That's where we are right now. Summer market, even though summer doesn't really begin until the 20th, the longest day of the year, June 20th, it really has begun, because I went on vacation, kids graduated, things like that. There's a lot of things going on. I know there's a soccer pool party for one of my kids, that, and then there's another pool party coming up. There's a lot of distractions. We got the kids off. So that is the time where we get into the summertime. And because there are more distractions with summer, it's just not as hot as the spring. Slightly less. So that's when demand drops slightly. That's why we saw that little slight drop, 1% drop in number of escrows over the last 30 days. And also we get the inventory rises. We had a significant rise in the inventory, well, 5%, which is why we had the expected market time go up 2 days, because we had inventory rising and demand dropping at the same time. We went from 25 to 27 days. No, it's not slowing down our market to where it's coming to a screeching halt, but it's the right direction, because I really want to see the expected market time rise above 40 days. And that's where there will be a little bit more breathing room for buyers. Still means a hot seller's market. It just is not as crazy nuts as where we are today. So my firm belief is, follow an economic model like what we do at Reports on Housing. And what we follow a lot of economic data, and we have an economic model so that we can properly forecast and predict and understand where we are today and where we're going tomorrow. That type of thing, versus the gossip factory. And the number one gossip factory for, if you want to start do a Google search, and you search, you'll get up a lot of videos, and you've got a lot of people that, of course, looking for this, is YouTube. And I've seen a lot of great stuff, and you see a lot of not so great stuff. And that's because it's free domain. Anybody can put up a video and start talking about it, such as myself right now. And if you look up housing crash, a number of people come up. As a matter of fact, Ken McElroy is a big time investor, does fabulous thing on the investment side of things. He was actually talking about a crash that was supposed to happen in the fourth quarter of 2021, which didn't materialize. I watched that video back in a while ago. Actually, he's talking about it right now. He's talked about that last year, and it didn't materialize for the fourth quarter of 2020. And he's kind of talking a little bit about it, but it's not really going to be a crash by the time we get to the end of the year. But there are a lot of videos on housing crashes, and I don't foresee a top to this anytime soon. I don't see anything that warrants talking about a housing crash or a housing bubble or anything like that. Yet there are a lot of people that are talking about it, and they just hone in on one chart or one stat or one piece of data, rather than looking at the broad picture and having a full economic model. So if you want a copy of this debrief, go ahead and ping me. However, you have to be a subscriber to my housing report. But you can go ahead and ask for one. You can email me, text me. You can put it in the chat in the comment section. If you want a copy, I'll send one your direction. But you to become a subscriber, go to reportsonhousing.com and click on subscribe, and you get $15 per month or $150 per year. And if you want a month free, sign up today utilizing the coupon code MOREBOOM. And I'd like to thank Kevin Buddy from Monarch Coast Financial. He deals with everything from full documentation loans to private money loans and everything in between. And he's been doing this since 1976, has loads of experience. And he's my buddy, your buddy, Kevin Buddy at Monarch Coast Financial, 949-422-2075. That's 949-422-2075. And that's all I have for you today. So I hope you had trying to get these things out as quickly as I can within the first half hour and have kids interrupt for the first 5 minutes. So I got that. Let's see. So I will look at a couple questions. I see a couple questions coming through. So here we go. Let's see. Brent has one that says, how do you see product shortages and price of construction materials affecting the supply and demand of the market? It's funny. I think Logan Motoshami hit the nail on the head when he talked a lot about the product shortages. You know what? Builders are going to build as much as they possibly can build when times are good. And they're going to look at their inventory levels. And when their inventory levels get too high, above 6 months, they'll stop building. And yet, if you look at the trajectory of building, it was during about 2012 through about 2016, 17, and 18, it was a slow, methodical rise, but we weren't building enough homes. In 2019, 2020, we were on the pace to do it. Then we hit the pandemic, and now it's coming back. But then building materials are getting in the way, and but that shock in building materials even the people that operate in that side of the arena have said that prices will come down. You just have to be patient. And so some builders are being patient. They're saying, I'll just wait a little bit longer, wait a few months for it to come down. This is not going to create this giant hole. There's no way that we'll be able to build our way out of this. The big thing that's going to change this is either prices get so high that people start to walk away, or we have interest rates that start to rise where people start to walk away and demand starts to diminish, and you start to get this buildup of inventories, not only in residential resale, but in brand new. And at that point, we will see a difference in the number of homes that are built. And it's all depending upon what their inventory levels are. So as far as if you think there's going to be a lot of homes, affordable homes that are going to be built, that has to be legislated. I haven't seen a lot of legislation. They've been talking about it quite a bit, but we've been talking about it for years in California, and we've been talking about it across the United States. That's not going to happen anytime soon. And will inflation override and drive down or drive up prices? I don't think the overriding inflation piece, the biggest piece is the component of housing, and they're going to pull that out when they talk about core, and core is going to be elevated a little bit, and some of this stuff will stick, but it's not going to be this continuous trajectory like we saw in the 70s and 80s. That's what has been stated by so many different economists, and that's why you're not seeing a giant fearful flood to short-term investments and out of long-term investments, because that's what happens when people get really fearful of inflation. They're not going to park their money someplace long-term. They want to do some short-term stuff. So what you see is people pull their money out of 30-year mortgages and out of 10-year bonds, that type of thing. And when that happens, you get this elevation in price and interest rates rise. We haven't seen any of that. And you've seen that over the last 6 weeks. It's been really flat, in spite of the fact that we've had interest rates, that we've had inflation readings that are really high, that for the most part are transitory. Some of them will carry through, but won't be enough to dislocate the market completely, because we're also seeing a rise in salaries as well that are out there. And so you've got to look at the giant picture when you're looking at the whole entire thing. So let's see. So I think that's about it. And if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer them. I just want everybody to have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the weather, enjoy your families and friends and all that good stuff. And we will, easy for me to say, a little bit of a tongue tongue twister, but we will see you on the other side. Thank you for staying tuned. I appreciate it.